I sit here in my living room, staring at two photographs on the mantel. One shows Marcus in his tailored suit, standing in front of his luxury apartment downtown. The other shows Noah thin and exhausted outside his rundown studio on the east side. Two brothers. Same parents. Same house growing up. But somehow their lives turned out so different it breaks my heart every time I look at these pictures. How did we get here? How did one son end up with everything while the other struggled with nothing? But it took me years to realize I was part of the problem. Before I tell you how I nearly lost one son while celebrating the other, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe, because what happened next changed everything I thought I knew about being a father. Trust me, you will want to hear how this unfolds. I need to take you back to understand how this all started. When Marcus came into this world 28 years ago, everything seemed perfect. He was a healthy baby, round cheeks, strong lungs, the kind of kid who smiled at everyone. My wife Diana and I were overjoyed. 3 years later, Noah arrived, but his entrance was different. He came 5 weeks early, spent 2 weeks in the NICU, and struggled with health issues that first year. I remember holding his tiny hand through the incubator, praying he would make it, and he did. He was a fighter from day one. Diana, my wife back then, seemed to love both boys equally at first. We lived in a modest 2-story house in the suburbs. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. I worked long hours as an assistant manager at a manufacturing plant, and Diana stayed home with the kids. We were happy, or at least I thought we were. I would come home tired, play with the boys for an hour before dinner, then collapse on the couch. Looking back, maybe I was not paying enough attention. When Marcus turned 7 and Noah turned 4, I started noticing small things. Diana would light up when Marcus walked into the room. She would brag to her friends about how smart he was, how handsome, how he looked, just like her side of the family. But when Noah tried to show her his drawings or tell her about his day, she would give him half her attention, sometimes barely looking up from whatever she was doing. I told myself it was nothing. Mothers and sons sometimes have different bonds with different kids. Right, I was making excuses without even knowing it. Then came the material things. Marcus got new toys for his birthday, while Noah received hand-me-downs from cousins. When Marcus wanted to join the youth soccer league, Diana signed him up immediately, bought him the best cleats she could find, attended every single game with a camera ready. When Noah asked about art classes at the community center, Diana said we could not afford it, but we could. I knew we could. I just did not push back because I hated conflict. I hated arguing with Diana. So I stayed quiet, and that silence was my first real failure as a father. One evening I came home early from work because a machine had broken down. I walked into the kitchen and saw Noah crying at the table. He had accidentally knocked over his glass of milk. Diana was standing over him, her voice sharp and cold, telling him how clumsy he was, how he never paid attention, how disappointed she was. I stood in the doorway frozen. Just the week before, Marcus had spilled an entire pitcher of juice on the carpet, and Diana had laughed it off, saying boys will be boys. The difference was so clear it hurt to see. I pulled Diana aside that night after the kids went to bed. I asked her why she treated them so differently. She looked at me like I was crazy. She said Noah needed to learn responsibility, that he was too careless, that she was just trying to teach him. But her eyes were cold when she talked about him. There was no warmth there like when she talked about Marcus. I did not know what to do. I did not know how to fix something I barely understood. So again I stayed quiet. That was my second failure. I started watching more carefully after that. Marcus always got the bigger portion at dinner. Noah always got the chores. When Marcus brought home a B on his report card, Diana celebrated. When Noah brought home an A, she barely acknowledged it. I tried to compensate by spending extra time with Noah on weekends, taking him to the park, letting him talk about the things he loved. But it was not enough. Nothing I did could make up for the coldness he felt from his own mother. One Saturday afternoon I took Noah to get ice cream, just the two of us. He was 8 years old then. I asked him if he was happy. He looked at me with these big brown eyes, so much sadness in them for such a young kid, and he said, "I am fine, Dad." but his voice cracked when he said it. I knew he was not fine. I knew something was breaking inside him. And still, I did not do enough. I hugged him and told him I loved him, but I did not confront the real problem. I did not protect him from his own mother. The middle school years made everything worse. Marcus became a star athlete, popular and confident. Diana drove him to practices, bought him the best equipment, made sure he had everything he needed to succeed. She talked about him constantly to anyone who would listen. Her phone was full of his photos. She wore his team colors to every game. Meanwhile, Noah discovered he loved to draw and read. He was quiet, thoughtful, spent hours in his room with sketchbooks. When Noah showed Diana his artwork, hoping for some encouragement, she barely glanced at it. She told him art was not a real career, that he needed to focus on something practical, something that would make him successful like his brother. I watched his face fall every single time. I bought him expensive art supplies with my own money, trying to show him I believed in him. But Diana found them and got furious with me. She said I was wasting money on foolish hobbies. We had our first real fight about the boys that night. By the time Marcus turned 16, the gap between my sons had become a canyon. Diana bought Marcus a used car for his birthday. It was not new, but it was reliable, and he was thrilled. Noah never got anything close to that. When I suggested we should do something special for Noah too, Diana said we had already spent too much on Marcus and needed to save money. But that was a lie. We had money. Diana just did not want to spend it on Noah. The breaking point for me came on a Tuesday night when I got home late from work. I heard Diana on the phone in the bedroom. The door was slightly open, and her voice carried into the hallway. She was talking to her mother, and what I heard made my blood run cold. She said Noah takes after Tom's side of the family. You know how they are. No ambition, no drive, always struggling. Marcus is different. He has our genes, Mother. He is going to make something of himself. I stood there in that hallway, and something inside me shattered. She was not just playing favorites. She had decided, based on some twisted logic about family bloodlines, that one of our sons was worth more than the other. My father had been a factory worker his whole life, a good, honest man who worked hard and loved his family. Diana's family had money-owned businesses, looked down on people they considered beneath them, and apparently she had decided Noah was beneath them too. I confronted her that night, really confronted her for the first time. I told her what I had heard. She did not even try to deny it. She cried and said she just wanted the best for Marcus, that she was being realistic about Noah's prospects. I asked her how she could say such things about her own child. She looked at me with dry eyes and said, "You do not understand, Johnny. Marcus has potential. Noah does not. I am just being honest." Honest. She thought she was being honest. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake her and make her see what she was doing to our son. Instead, I asked her if she even loved Noah. She hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. She said she loved both her boys, but even as the words came out, they sounded hollow. I spent that night in the guest room, unable to sleep, wondering how I had married someone capable of such cruelty. But even then, even knowing all this, I did not leave. I did not take the boys and go. I told myself I was staying for them, that they needed stability, that divorce would hurt them more. But the truth is, I was a coward. I was afraid of being alone, afraid of the judgment, afraid of admitting my marriage was broken. So I stayed, and Noah continued to suffer. High school was torture for Noah. He stopped drawing. Diana had beaten the joy out of him so thoroughly that he put away his sketchbooks and stopped talking about art. His grades started slipping because he had no support at home. He seemed to shrink into himself, becoming quieter, more withdrawn. I tried to help with homework, tried to encourage him, but the damage was already done. He had internalized Diana's message. He believed he was not good enough. When Marcus got accepted to Stanford, Diana threw a huge party. She invited everyone we knew, spent thousands of dollars on catering and decorations, made speeches about how proud she was. Marcus deserved to celebrate, absolutely. But when Noah got accepted to the local community college, the only school he could afford with his grades, Diana did not even tell her friends. There was no party, no celebration, barely a congratulations. I took Noah out to dinner myself, just the two of us, and tried to make him feel special, but I could see it in his eyes. He knew he was the disappointment. One night, Noah was 20 years old by then, I found him sitting on the back porch in the dark. I sat down next to him, and we just existed in silence for a while. Then he said, without looking at me, "Dad, it is okay. I know I am not good enough. I have always known." Those words hit me like a truck. My son, my beautiful, kind, talented son, believed he was worthless, and I had let it happen. I had stood by and watched his mother destroy his self-worth, and I had not done enough to stop it. I put my arm around him and told him that was not true, that he was amazing, that I was proud of him. But words were cheap. I had been saying things like that for years, but my actions had not matched. I had not left Diana. I had not forced her to treat him fairly. I had not protected him the way a father should protect his child. I decided that night that things had to change, but I still did not know how to make it happen. Everything came crashing down 3 years ago. Marcus was 25, working at a prestigious tech company in Silicon Valley, living in a beautiful apartment that Diana had helped him furnish. Noah was 22, still taking classes at community college while working 3 part-time jobs to pay for tuition and rent. Diana had given Marcus $20,000 as a graduation gift. She gave Noah nothing. I got the call on a Thursday afternoon. The hospital said Noah had collapsed at the coffee shop where he worked the morning shift. I dropped everything and drove there as fast as I could, my heart pounding the entire way. When I got to his room, I barely recognized him. He had lost so much weight. His face was gaunt, his eyes sunken. He looked like he was dying, and maybe he was. The doctor told me Noah was severely malnourished and exhausted. He was working nearly 70 hours a week between his 3 jobs, barely eating, barely sleeping. His body had simply given up. I sat next to his bed and held his hand, and I cried. I cried for all the years I had failed him, for every time I had stayed quiet when I should have spoken up, for every moment I had chosen peace over his well-being. When Noah woke up, he looked at me with those sad eyes and said, "I am sorry, Dad. I did not want to bother you. You already have enough to worry about with Marcus's success." That broke me. My son was literally killing himself, and he was apologizing to me. He thought he was a burden. He thought he did not deserve help. I drove home that night, and I was done. I was done with the excuses, done with the cowardice, done with protecting Diana's feelings while our son suffered. I walked into the house, and Diana was watching television like nothing was wrong. I told her Noah was in the hospital. She barely looked up. She said, "He will be fine. He has always been dramatic." Something snapped inside me. I turned off the television and stood in front of her. I told her we needed to talk about Noah right now. She sighed like I was inconveniencing her. I asked her to come to the hospital with me. She said no. She said Noah had made his own choices, and she was not responsible for them. I lost it. I shouted at her something I had never done in 28 years of marriage. I told her she had destroyed our son, that she had treated him like garbage his entire life, that she had broken him down until he believed he was nothing. She shouted back that she had given everything to Marcus because he deserved it, because he had potential, because Noah was weak and always had been. I stood there staring at the woman I had married, and I did not recognize her. I asked her the question I should have asked years ago. I said, "Did you ever love him? Did you ever love Noah at all?" She looked at me with cold eyes and said, "I never wanted 2 kids, Johnny. I only wanted Marcus. I did my duty by Noah, but no, I never loved him the way I loved Marcus." There it was. The truth I had been avoiding for 2 decades. My wife had never loved our younger son. She had resented his existence, treated him as an obligation, and poisoned his entire childhood with her coldness. And I had let it happen. I told her I wanted a divorce. She laughed and said fine, that she was tired of pretending anyway. Just like that, our marriage ended. Not with tears or apologies, but with relief on both sides. She was relieved. She did not have to pretend anymore. I was relieved I could finally do what I should have done years ago. I called Marcus that night and told him everything. I had protected him from the worst of it over the years, not wanting to burden him. But he deserved to know the truth. He was quiet for a long time after I finished talking. Then he said, "Dad, I knew. I did not want to see it, but I knew, and I did nothing. I was so focused on my own success, I ignored what was happening to Noah. We were both guilty. Diana was the villain in this story, but Marcus and I were accomplices. We had stood by and watched Noah suffer, because it was easier than confronting the truth. But we could not change the past. We could only try to make things right going forward." I moved into Noah's apartment that weekend. It was a tiny studio in a rough neighborhood, the kind of place that made my heart hurt to see my son living there. I told him I was staying until he got better, that I was going to take care of him whether he liked it or not. He cried and said he did not deserve it. I held him and told him he deserved so much more than he had ever gotten. I took my savings money I had been setting aside for retirement and paid off all of Noah's student loans. It was $35,000, but it was worth every penny to see the weight lift off his shoulders. Marcus used his connections to get Noah an interview at his company for a junior position in their design department. It was not charity. Noah was talented. He just needed someone to give him a chance. Diana called me a week later, furious that I had given Noah money. She said I was enabling his failure. I hung up on her. I blocked her number. I was done letting her poison my relationship with my son. She filed for divorce, and I did not fight her on anything. She could have the house, the car, whatever she wanted. I just wanted to be free of her. Recovery was slow. For the first month, I stayed with Noah and made sure he ate 3 meals a day. I cooked breakfast every morning, packed him lunches, had dinner ready when he got home. He gained back 15 pounds in 6 weeks. Color returned to his face. He started smiling again, real smiles that reached his eyes. Marcus visited every weekend. The two brothers, who had been kept apart by Diana's manipulations, started building a real relationship. Marcus apologized to Noah for being blind to his suffering. Noah forgave him immediately because that was who Noah was. He had never blamed Marcus. He had only blamed himself. Noah thrived at his new job. His talent, which had been suppressed for so long, finally had room to grow. Within 6 months, he got promoted. Within a year, he was leading his own projects. His boss told me Noah was one of the most creative designers they had ever hired. I wanted to find Diana and shove those words in her face, but she did not matter anymore. She was not part of our lives. Noah started drawing again. He filled sketchbooks with beautiful artwork, the kind of stuff that took my breath away. He was finally becoming the person he was meant to be, free from the weight of Diana's rejection. He moved into a better apartment, got a reliable car, started dating someone who treated him with kindness. He was rebuilding his life, and I got to watch it happen. Marcus and Noah became close in a way they never had been growing up. They got lunch together twice a week. Marcus taught Noah about investing and career strategy. Noah taught Marcus about art and creativity. They balanced each other out, and I was so proud of both of them. The divorce finalized 8 months after I left. Diana got the house and most of the assets. I did not care. I moved into a small condo near Noah's place. It was not much, but it was mine, and it was free from the toxicity that had filled that house for so many years. For the first time in decades, I could breathe. Diana tried to contact Marcus a few times, wanting to maintain their relationship. But Marcus had seen her true nature, and he wanted nothing to do with her. He told her that unless she apologized to Noah and meant it, he did not want to hear from her. She never apologized. Her pride was more important than her relationship with either of her sons. She lost both of them because she could not admit she was wrong. I learned hard lessons through all of this. I learned that love is not enough if you do not back it up with action. I had loved Noah his whole life, but I had failed to protect him when he needed me most. I had prioritized keeping the peace over keeping my son safe. That was unforgivable, and I will carry that guilt for the rest of my life. But I also learned that it is never too late to make things right. Noah could have shut me out. He could have blamed me for not doing more. Instead, he forgave me and let me back into his life. That forgiveness was a gift I did not deserve, but would spend the rest of my days trying to earn. I think about the man I used to be, the one who stayed quiet to avoid conflict, and I barely recognize him. That version of me was a coward. He let fear control his choices, and his son paid the price. I am not that man anymore. Now, when I see injustice, I speak up. When someone I love is being hurt, I act. I learned those lessons too late for Noah's childhood, but I will not make that mistake again. The relationship between Marcus and Noah continues to grow stronger. Last month they went on a camping trip together, just the two of them. They sent me photos of them by the campfire, arms around each other's shoulders, genuine smiles on their faces. That image sits on my desk now, and sometimes I just stare at it and feel grateful that I still have the chance to be their father. Noah told me recently that what I did leaving Diana and choosing him saved his life. He said he had been thinking about giving up completely before I showed up at the hospital. Hearing that confirmed what I already knew, that my inaction could have cost me my son. I got lucky. I got a second chance. Not everyone does. Today both my sons are thriving. Marcus is still successful in his career, but now he understands that success means nothing if you hurt people to get it. Noah has found his confidence and his voice. He stands tall now instead of shrinking into corners. He knows his worth, and no one can take that from him again. I sit in my living room now, looking at new photographs on the wall. One shows Marcus and Noah at Noah's art show last spring. Another shows all three of us at Thanksgiving, the first holiday we spent together without Diana's toxic presence. These images tell a different story than those old photographs. They tell a story of healing, of second chances, of a family that almost broke but managed to survive. Someone asked me recently if I regret staying with Diana for so long. The honest answer is yes. I regret every day I stayed silent. I regret every time I chose comfort over courage. I regret not being the father Noah deserved from the beginning. But regret is useless unless you let it teach you something. My regrets taught me that protecting the people you love sometimes means making hard choices, even when those choices tear your life apart. Noah came over for dinner last week and brought his girlfriend, a kind woman who looks at him like he hung the moon. During dessert, he told a story about his childhood that made everyone laugh. It was not a bitter story or a sad one. It was just a memory proof that despite everything he had managed to hold on to some happiness. After everyone left, he hugged me and whispered, "Thank you for not giving up on me, Dad. That is all I needed to hear. That is worth more than the house I lost, the money I spent, the comfortable life I left behind." My son knows he matters. Both my sons know they matter. And they know that no matter what, I will always choose them. Being a father is not about treating your kids exactly the same. It is about making sure each one knows they are valued, that they are loved, that they are worth fighting for. Marcus had everything materially, but Noah needed me more. He needed someone to stand up and say that he mattered, that his mother was wrong, that he was worthy of love and support and every good thing in life. I learned that lesson too late, but at least I learned it before it was too late to matter. I cannot give Noah back his childhood or erase the years of damage Diana caused. But I can be here now. I can show up. I can prove through my actions that he is worth everything to me. And that will have to be enough. So, here is what I want you to take from my story. If you see someone being treated unfairly, speak up. If someone you love is suffering in silence, break that silence. Do not wait until it is almost too late like I did. Do not let fear or comfort or the desire to keep the peace stop you from doing what is right. The people you love are counting on you to protect them, even when it is hard, even when it costs you something. I look at my sons now, healthy and happy and building good lives, and I am grateful. I am grateful I got a second chance. I am grateful Noah survived long enough for me to finally do the right thing. I am grateful Marcus learned these lessons while he is still young enough to apply them to his own life someday. And I am grateful that despite all my failures, both my boys still call me Dad. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice to protect someone you love? Have you ever struggled with speaking up against unfairness in your own family? Drop a comment below and share your story. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel for more real stories about life, family, and the hard lessons we all learn along the way. Share this with someone who might need to hear it. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it reminds you that it is never too late to do the right thing. May you have the courage to stand up for the people who need you most, even when it costs you everything. Take care of each other out there.